Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. It is the daily for Thursday morning, and it's also a collaboration with The Difference. It's not a Sunday, but it's been too long. I had to get my man Anthony Schlegel back in here. He's got a lot of thoughts rattling around in his brain, and he's got to get them out. So Schlegs, we've got a Peach Bowl to talk about. We've got NIL craziness. We've got the transfer portal. We've got the college football world is truly going bonkers right now, and I know you of all people will have a lot to say about it.
Yep. Yeah, just ask me those questions when we get there, for sure.
All right. I know before we get into any of that, and we're going to get into plenty of Ohio State, Georgia, that you had some thoughts about the passing of Mike Leach earlier in the week, this offensive innovator, and how much respect you have for people that have that kind of influence. You go around the country dealing with coaches, meeting coaches, putting in different striking machines and working everywhere. So I know how much the people that give their lives to that profession mean to you. And Mike Leach was one of the more successful ones in it.
Yeah, he was. The thing that you love about Mike Leach is that Mike Leach was exactly Mike Leach. That's, I think, the thing that always, resonated with everybody. You knew that whatever question you asked, you were going to get some authentic answer. Whether you wanted that answer or not, that's where he was going, right? And he was completely an open book, meaning, people were asking him marriage advice, or he just started dropping marriage advice nuggets on people, and then he would, FaceTime people or do a video for other people when they had questions for him, and he would, be on air and literally talk about, favorite candies, and went down the line, and I think Berm, I forget, it might have been Berm, posted something of his where he was talking about which Pac-12 mascot would win in a fight. And that's just pure gold. But then you talk a little bit about, his impact on the game of football and the air raid offense, and, throwing the ball all over the place. And you see how it's permeated into the NFL. You see how it's obviously, is a mainstay in college football. And here's the thing about it. When people transform certain things, you got to look at where it comes from. So you go to a school like Texas Tech, what do you not get a lot of? This is one thing that people got to understand about college football. Guys and gals, listen, there's not a lot of 300 plus 6'4" humans walking the earth with a skill set to play offense or defensive line. That's the facts. That's why they came up with the 3-3-5 defense. Why? Because when you're at school, when you're at a smaller school, what is there a more abundance of? Linebackers and safety type kids, right? Or linebackers safeties that can, beef up and be an outside backer, or like a nickel back kind of hybrid guy, right? So there's more of those type of people. So you go and you innovate into a 3-3-5. Okay. Then there's the 4-2, right? So 4-2-5. Well, I want more DBs on the field, and my defensive line is going to be more athletic, and I'm going to have two linebackers, and that's what we're going to do. And that one safety, that one nickel is going to have to be basically like a hybrid will nickel linebacker, okay? So you have that type of innovation. Then you look at where he was at Texas Tech, and recruiting the state of Texas, there's an abundance of skill position players. But what do, right? They spread the field out. I remember even looking back in the old days, they had monster splits. And the reason that is because they were able to get upfield and get to the second level. But by creating space, so again, the game of football is always about pace, space, and angles. So when you have a better athlete in space on a lesser athlete, you have more opportunities for that skilled player to have to gain positive yards. That's the whole point of it. Get teams running lateral, right? Spread them out. So then when you have to go inside, you can. And if you make one guy miss, now he's going to get 10, 11, 12 yards, as opposed to condensing everything and making him have to go earn those hard yards, which is really hard to do, but you also have to have the personnel to do it. So he's an innovator in the game. He's truly authentic. He's gone at 61. I knew how much he meant to Pat Chun, who was, the athletic director up at Washington State. I coached Gardner Minshew when he was with the Jaguars, who he meant a lot to. And again, coaches mean a lot to their players. I played for Fisher DeBerry. I played for Richard Bell, who was my defensive coordinator. And part of the reason I came to Ohio State was Richard Bell and Ed Warner, who was our offensive line coach when I coached at Ohio State, but he went to Mount Union and he was recruiting Ohio. That's how my name got brought up. Oh, side nugget. Mark D'Antonio's coach at South Carolina was Richard Bell. And side nugget, Mark D'Antonio played at West Point before he went to South Carolina. But it's all these things, like they care for each other, they talk to each other. Regardless of the age gap, that's your coach, right? Yep. Same feelings I have toward Coach Tress and Fickle and those guys, Coach Meyer and the staff that's currently there. It's the same that their players and coaches have for Coach Leach. And, automatically when this happened, I remember reading a tweet about how his family said, Mike Leach was an organ donor, one last act of charity, his family said. And immediately my mind went to, and I believe this would be a quote that he would have brought up during a time like this, would have been, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called a present. And that was by Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda. And that right there is 100% prototypical Mike Leach in this. Live where your feet are. Today is a present. Don't forget it.
Yep. Well said. Glad you had a chance to get that out there and talk about that. I know how much that means to you as somebody who's given his life as well to college football and helping young people. So when you're talking about the innovation part, though, Schlegs, Georgia and Ohio State, they can pretty much do whatever they want, right? They've got all the personnel and all the dudes that they want, and that matchup is going to be pretty fun. Two maybe contrasts of styles. What was the first thing you thought maybe a week and a half ago when the Peach Bowl matchup was determined?
2014, first thing that came to my mind. Excuse me, I'm thinking and I'm kind of burping at the same time. Anyways,
a therp.
Yep, a therp. I think of 2014, and it will be 2014 if Ohio State unleashes, allows itself to flip the switch, because the one team that can match up with Georgia, skill for skill, talent for talent, is Ohio State. We know that. They recruit at a high level every single year. They have troves of weapons at their disposal. However, dudes got to step up and be the dudes that they're capable of being. That really is what it is. Now, I think that's going to play out in the first half of this ball game. I remember Alabama 2014. We go out there. I'm watching their guys warm up. I'm watching our guys warm up. I'm like, these are really big, physical, somewhat stiff dudes. And they were very, very good that year. And I'm looking at our guys, and I'm like, man, these guys are athletic. They're skilled. They look strong. I'm like, but you know what, though? Like that, I remember, I think we talked about it, but like that team had probably 30 or so guys in that top 10 of that 10-80-10 that Urban Meyer always talked about. They had some absolute dudes. And so in order for this to happen, the dudes that have to be the dudes got to unleash it, man. I want to see it. So that's kind of what's intriguing me about this, is initially when I saw it, I thought about 2014. In that year, we didn't kind of, as quote unquote, people would say, back our way into this after a loss. We lost to Virginia Tech early in the year, and we were rolling toward the end of the year. I think we were really coming into our own, but then you also had JT go down, and you had Cardale come in a game in which we won 59-0, right? So we're rolling into that Alabama game full steam ahead, just beating a really good Wisconsin team. I believe they had Melvin Gordon at the time, running back, 59-0. Absolutely dominated that entire matchup, that Big Ten championship game, and that's what we were going into the game versus Alabama. This one now is coming off a loss, and it's really, are they going to get that chip? Because I know for a fact, and I said this during the Sunday with Schlegs and the difference after the Michigan game. I don't think it's a physical toughness, guys. I really do not. In that Michigan game, I'm looking at the rushing totals going into the fourth quarter. It was like 30 or 40 yards. McNamara started getting a little bit, and I think it crept up to the high 70s. So it really wasn't a physical thing. It was an emotional and a mental thing, which is also a part of toughness. And so I want to see that in this game. But that's also trusting in your teammate, and just you doing your job. And for us to be successful in this matchup in the Peach Bowl, our dudes just have to go do their job. As Urban Meyer would say, when called upon, you have to respond. You have to make the catch. You have to make the perimeter block. You have to be able to go make the tackle. You have to have eye discipline, right, which is mental toughness to just cover your guy because you believe in your other teammates that they're going to handle the run, right? Like, that's why the big plays happen. I don't ever blame anything on a coordinator as far as why they happened. Mm-hmm. Yes, you came out. Do we want to get home? 100%. But a guy was right there, lost leverage, gave up the out of bounds, and the guy hit a home run. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think those are the two things: mental and emotional toughness in this game, and our dudes being the dudes that they're capable of being.
That mental and emotional part, Schlegs, is interesting to me because I think there's also something that sticks in my mind about 2014 from the preparation for the Sugar Bowl between those two teams, and that every time, it's like when Ohio State walked in, to the Superdome, they were laid back, they were joking, there was lots of smiles. You could tell, like, Darren Lee was already really confident in wanting to go play, but they were good natured and they were more like themselves. Their personality was out, and they left the field, and Alabama came in. And there were no jokes. There were no smiles. It was all business. They were tightly wound. The pressure was on them to deliver. They were number one. They were supposed to go give Nick Saban, the first college football playoff victory. And I think they felt that pressure. So why do I bring that up in this game? Well, I think that in leading up to the Michigan game, Ohio State acted the same way that Alabama did before the Sugar Bowl. Now, can you get rid of that? Is that off your back? Do you feel like this second, lease on life that Ryan Day has talked about? Do they go in with more of that, cut it loose, nothing to lose now? If you're Ohio State, do they, can they just relax and play to their level, the level of their training?
Yep, and I think that's going to start from the top down. It's going to start with the coaches. I think they're going to see it again. I don't go to practices, but I think you'll see that, and players can see it in the game plan that you're implementing. Are they putting all their trust on you? Like, listen, I'm going to call this game because this is what I think needs to win. You just need to go out there and execute it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what coaches do. Coaches coach, players play, and that's why the players should be the one that's always getting the glory because they're the ones that got to go out into the arena. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why I said this first part. Now, I will go back to, and I don't remember the Alabama thing, but it's one thing that's always stuck with me with Urban, of which I absolutely loved. He always talked about working the game. Work the game, relax, right? Yeah. And again, I'm going back because you brought this point up and it made me think back to that time. Our guys were amazing at being able to work the game, lock in, and then boom, you're out and you're jovial and you're hanging out with your dudes, and then boom, you start strapping this stuff up and you go out there and you warm up, boom, I'm working the game, right? Then I go back in the locker room, I take a break, I get a Gatorade. And now I'm listening to some music and I'm, just kind of bopping around, right? Just feeling the juice a little bit. And then boom, I'm going to lock in. Now we go out to warmups, right? And I'm all business. Like, they were phenomenal at that. And also too, I remember in the national championship game, it was all about blowing up 16. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but they had 16s everywhere with like a football blowing that number up because that was how fast Oregon would run a play. And it was like, man, if you blow that up through, physical, mental, and emotional toughness, they will, wither at that because they can't hang with you physically. And we were a more, I would say, physically and conditioning, all those different things. Like, you could try to run us around the parking lot 5 times to get us tired and do it. No, we could run around 5 times and we're going to still come and hit you in the mouth. So I think it was a combination of all those things that gave our guys that type of confidence. But I truly believe that you will see this in the first half. If this game is close, it will give Ohio State some juice going into the fourth quarter. But you're also going to see it in the manner in which our coaches call plays.
Yeah. So we still have, a week and a half to go, or 2 weeks to go before the game, Schlegs. So maybe it's too early to pick difference makers, but when you're looking at...
You're already going to difference makers? Like, we're not even talking about like NIL and all these other things?
I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to keep talking about that, and then we'd get to NIL at the end because
Yeah.
I thought you were in the zone, just breaking down Ohio State, Georgia. I didn't want to disrupt the flow.
I am in the zone. Guys, I had an epiphany. This is maybe this is a deeper question before we get into that question. This is real talk.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I was in the airport. I was flying up. I was going to drive. I was doing a lot of work. I was exhausted, and I didn't want to make the 12-hour trip in my truck. And then I also know how expensive diesel gas prices are right now, which really hurts my wallet. And so like at 2:00 in the morning when I was going to get on the road, I said, bump this. And I just bought a plane ticket and flew up to Ohio. However, while I was in the airport, I had myself another Mike Leach type moment when, I'm sitting there at the gate. And the beautiful thing about flying from Jacksonville to Atlanta, then to Columbus, right, is that when you stop in Atlanta, there's a Chick-fil-A. I mean, almost every single time right next to my gate.
Right.
I'm connecting from Atlanta to Columbus. And I travel a lot coming back up here for the difference. And it's been under renovation for quite some time, and it was open this time. And so before I wanted to go get a Sunjoy and enjoy a chicken biscuit sandwich with egg and cheese and 2 hash browns, I was like, you know what? I'm going to the bathroom and I have my AirPods in and I'm listening to some country music. And I go in there and I'm taking a leak. And it's not the leak that we had at Ohio State where you're looking and gazing into the eyes of another man and you're trying to see who's going to look down first or who's going to look away first. I'm just staring at this blank wall and I'm like, you know what? Boom. I rip a fart. And here's the real question that got me going is that if you have noise canceling AirPods in, listening to music while in an airport bathroom and you rip a huge fart.
Yeah.
Does it make a noise? That's real talk. That's real thought-provoking question right there.
Well,
what do you think?
I mean, I
don't know because I didn't hear it. And
yeah.
I couldn't see if anybody else heard it because I'm looking like I should be straight ahead into the tile wall in front of me.
Well, I think that if you feel the vibration, that's a confirmation of noise, right? I mean, that's sound
a good
waves.
Point.
So I think it probably you can say yes. It didn't whistle out of there. So
no.
I don't think anything whistles out of you, Schleg. I think it comes out full force, all gas, no brakes. Yes, is what that is.
Yes.
So
all those explosive squats I hit that morning, dynamic effort morning.
Yeah, so
Buffalo Bar chain squats. Okay, go back.
It's a great question. It's a great question.
Throw that out there to the listeners.
I know you've been taking notes. You're trying to break down this matchup so that you're ready for December 31st, and you still have 2 weeks to do so. But who's going to have to be a difference maker for Ohio State if they're going to win the Peach Bowl?
Okay, let's start on defense, and it's quite simple. It's Ransom and Hickman and Burke and McAllister and Proctor and Brown. Like it's all those dudes, right? And I don't know if McConkey is going to be healthy for this game because he re-injured his knee in the SEC championship game. But let's face it, they got dudes. Mitchell's back. Who's the other guy? Jack Saint, something like that. But they got great tight ends, right? And
2 tight ends,
Bowers and Washington. I mean, they got absolute dudes. So now you got to bring the linebackers involved. Like, can they cover them? But that all of that to say, I say that because the big plays that happened in the Michigan game, outside of the runs, there had to have been somebody there on that run fit. Okay, so I didn't go back and necessarily watch the tape, but there should have been somebody there in the run fit. Mm-hmm. However, the deep balls and the eye control are 100% on the defensive backs. So that being said, defensively, they have to be the difference makers in this game. Now, to help those guys, we got to get home. We got to get home. JT had a great game. Jack Sawyer had a game in the Maryland game. Okay, Zach Harrison had a great game in the Maryland game. Somebody has to step up on the D-line so we don't have to bring an all-out blitz and linebackers to go affect that and put guys on the island. Mm-hmm. Somebody up front's going to have to go affect Stetson Bennett.
Yep,
period. First off, he's named after a cowboy hat. That's amazing. And I believe it's Beaver felt that they're made out of. Who doesn't like Beavers? So that being said,
it's a great point.
You got to affect him. And so again, it's everybody, but it's not, right? I think our DBs really have to step up in this game, keep everything in front of them, and have great eye discipline.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point, Schlegel, because I'm a little bit curious about, as you mentioned with the two tight ends there with Bowers and Washington, those guys are athletic freaks, like very rare. There's not a lot of genetics like that. We talked about that early on, how rare it can be to bring those into your team. So I want to know really how Jim Knowles wants to defend that, because we've seen different. You can add another safety. You mentioned Josh Proctor's name. He's certainly got the size, the speed, the ability to go hit. He could go do that. Do they think that they have to defend that with linebackers, in which case you're bringing someone like Cody Simon into the picture? Or does Josh Proctor, you have a month to prepare, does he or Sonny Styles have some sort of linebacker responsibilities? I don't know the answer to that, but I do think it's got to have to be one of those two guys, or Cody Simon maybe, that has to be more involved, because I don't know that in this game specifically that Tanner McAllister would help line up against those two tight ends. I just don't. It doesn't seem to me like that.
He doesn't have the size. Or you go and play a little bit of quarters, right, where you have Tommy who can go and really push to that guy through number 3, and then if he decides to run up, he's going right to a safety. Like, there's other ways of mitigating that in playing zone, more of like a man-match zone principles, right, where you have a guy maybe squatting, so if he goes out, boom, linebacker packs it back, and he's sitting right there. You can help relieve that in that manner as well. But it all goes back to the execution, right? The coaches can go and have a great game plan, but if the dudes don't go out there and execute and be in the positions that they're supposed to be and make the plays that they're supposed to make, it's on the dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's about those guys being able to execute to allow everybody else to just go do their job. But that's the beauty of defense. Okay. That's the beauty of defense.
Offensive. What do you got over there, Schlegel?
It all goes through C.J. Stroud. I mean, that's it. Period. Dot, man. I mean, the man, like, he has all the talent in the world. Absolutely love him as a human being, 100%. But you got to go back to a little bit of the Northwestern game where you decided to run the football. Not necessarily that it were calling runs, but that he's mobile enough to get out, just go get the first down. Like, that's another way of stopping Georgia's offense and us giving up big plays is what? Control the ball.
Possession. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's that simple. So that being said, CJ is the guy. Marvin Harrison Jr., absolute freak. I'm not worried about our wide receivers, though they have great DBs as well. I mean, this is a very evenly, skilled match. And I would say, predicated upon the resume, the edge is with Georgia. They're defending champions. They're 13-0. They're SEC champions. They play flawlessly. And they've beaten everybody that they're supposed to beat pretty much handily. They just go out there and execute at a high level. And they're coming into this game with a lot of confidence, and the only way that you can take that is if you start to do things that you didn't see on tape. Period. Dot. And so that's what we got to see from CJ. And I'd say last nugget, the running game has to help our man.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, we already know that Trevion's out, right? And do you know what kind of injury he had on his foot? Was it his Louis Frank or what is it?
That was what pretty early on in the season. That was
he had a Liz Frank?
That it was being yes, the ligament issues in the foot.
Should have done it right then, man.
Yeah, they thought they could try and manage it. It would be a pain management issue, and like I don't think with a running back that's something you can really push personally. And we saw that. Like he wanted to come back for the Maryland game. It didn't work, right? I mean, he shouldn't have been out there. It hurt the whole flow of the offense. He couldn't go the next week. He gave it, and I give him all the credit in the world
100%.
About the toughness. And I said it after that game, and I told you on that Sunday, like at some point somebody has to say you just can't go out there anymore, and that's good. That's for the betterment of the kid first and foremost, but then the betterment of the team and the offense after that. And so, look, that's not going to happen for him in this game. It's going to be 6 weeks from the high ankle sprain for Mayan Williams until New Year's Eve.
And his hand. Yeah, no doubt. So you got Dallin Hayden. And you have Dallin Hayden, right? And so, but going back to the blueprint that beat Alabama, you ran the football.
Yeah.
Right? 85 yards through the heart of the South, right? Is that what it was? 85 yards?
That's right.
Boom,
Yep.
boom, right? But run the football. So that will set up everything else. And they're going to say, hey, you're going to have to beat us either with the run or the pass, but you got to go inflict your will. So offensive line has to rise up. Like you said, they've had 6 weeks to prepare. They're fresh. They didn't have another game, right? I know they've been getting after it at practice, and they've been training really, really hard, but now you got to go. Now you got to go.
That's right. As you said, the talent is equated here. At the middle of the season or first couple weeks of November, we knew that this was going to be the situation, or the many people projected this could be the national championship game. These are the two best teams, two most talented rosters. And how do you get that? Well, by recruiting very well. And now there's a lot of this conversation about how name, image, and likeness plays into it. Gene Smith put out a statement so that the people needed to give and be more involved publicly. Yeah. I think it's a strange time for that, Schlegs, because there's always been people that want to give money to recruits. That's not new. Now it's legal, and I think maybe other schools are more prepared to do that than Ohio State. I don't know. It's just a strange time to be covering it all.
Yeah, the dynamic is very different. I would say this: you have to be true to your core values and who you bring into the organization. Period. We're in the free agency market of the NFL, right? Like, if you're in Jacksonville, like, why do people want to come to Jacksonville? I mean, it is nice. There's no state tax. You're in Northeast Florida. You're on the first coast, but your facilities were trash. They're building all new facilities. People enjoy the schools in St. Johns County where I live. Like, there's a lot of good perks, but you haven't won. So why does somebody want to go there? I think, Doug has done a good job, and they're actually in the hunt. I think they're like 5-7 or 5-8 or something like that. Anyways, I digress, but that's where we are. So your value proposition has to change a little bit. And this kind of goes into the Travion notion that you brought up. And like, hey, no, like, my value prop to our guys when I was coaching in Jacksonville was my job is to maximize your value and extend your career. So whether you're an Andrew Norwell, who is in year 8, who just signed a 9th and 10th year contract with Washington, and consequently with an ankle, with a knee, and with an elbow, had one of his best years as a guard in year 8, he got what? A contract extension with another team to continue to what? Maximize his value and extend his career, right? But then you have those tweener guys that could be on special teams, but they're the third or fourth wide receiver, right? What do I want to do? I want to get to a second contract, or I want to have a bigger contract. And then you have the guys that are on scout team or practice squad, right? What is their value? Well, I'm looking at it as, all right, this kid is not expendable. I can't just run him all day and have him have a soft tissue injury to where he can't go out there, because guess what's going to happen? He's going to get cut. So I got to give him everything at my disposal, in our training room's disposal, to make sure that he's healthy, so that if he does get an opportunity, he can go put his best foot forward and do what? Maximize his value and extend his career to potentially have a shot with this team next year or another team. Like, that's how it is. So when you go through and you're bringing recruits in that are coming in from different colleges, the number one thing is, who are you as Ohio State, and what are the type of players that you're looking for? The beautiful thing is that Jim Knowles, I believe, knows what he wants on defense, and Ryan Day knows exactly what he wants on offense. So what type of athlete is that? 2, does he fit into the toughness mindset that has been instilled in that organization since Mickey Marotti and Urban Meyer came in 2012, right? If they don't fit that mold, side nugget, and they're not a dude that will be all in, here's a bigger thing, all in as a Buckeye. Guys, I'm from Texas, man. I knew nothing about Ohio State except for Andy Katzenmoyer, all right, and then Ohio had Big Deer. And they played great defense, okay? Yeah. That's it. That's all I knew, okay? But I came here, and I drank the freaking Kool-Aid. I just didn't drink it. I freaking double-fisted pictured it. Froth, little foam. Yeah. 2 hands at the same time.
Funnel.
Okay? Scarlet and gray, boom. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
You have to have those type of guys. Because now you're starting to see what Michigan's doing, and they're going and they're getting the dudes that are being slighted by Ohio State and bringing them to Michigan. Ohio dudes going to Michigan, what does that do to them? It puts a what? Big freaking chip on their shoulder.
Yep.
And that chip, that passion is something that you can use and foster and build up because, again, we're in the developmental business in the game of college football. In the league, it's up to you as a pro to be developed or to continue perfecting your craft and developing because we pay you money. Right? Now with NIL, yes, technically they do pay you, but still we're developing them because it's not like the NFL where they can go on their own and train with their own trainer or do whatever. No, they're in your building running your offseason, doing your offseason program and going to school, regardless if they make the money. And I hope that they make a lot of it because they should. And I was on Pell Grants. So I'm excited that they have that opportunity. But you can't miss because if you miss and you get one of those dudes that open womb starts to fester and creep in and clicks happen, whole thing falls apart very, very quickly. And guess what happens? Everybody gets fired. That's what happens. So you got to be mindful of that. And it's also why I'm happy that we have a guy in Mark Pantoni because I believe that he's evaluating all of those things.
Right.
And it's very similar to an NFL, what they're looking at, the character of the guy, the situation he came from, his pedigree, right? His parents, why did he come to this decision to be in the transfer portal? Why does he want to pick Ohio State? Is he going to be here for the long haul? I mean, you go look at dadgummit, man. What's the dude up in New England, the quarterback?
Mac Jones?
Yeah, Mac Jones.
Tom Brady?
Yeah, no. Mac Jones. Mac Jones waited behind who? Hurst and Tua.
Yeah.
For his opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
turned out pretty well.
And guess what though? That situation also you can't flip that and say, well, what about Joe Burrow? You can't do that. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of this. Everybody out there that's a fan has to let these dudes go make their own decisions because their goals are different than your goals. You are a fan. You are a fanatic of your team, of your school, not necessarily of the kid and his goals. Okay? So you have to know that. You don't know what they are. And if he leaves because he wants the opportunity to play, and like Joe could have easily went to Cincinnati, balled out, but would he have won the Heisman there? I don't know. I don't think so. I think by him going to LSU, beating out dudes that they had, betting on himself, having the right coordinator that accentuated his skill set, perpetuated him to winning a national championship and winning a Heisman Trophy. That also gave him, again, we're the sum of our life's experiences, that also gave him the juice and the swag, though I think he's had it for a long time being a coach's kid.
Right?
Has taken him to being the absolute dude in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So not all situations are equal. You have to look it through a prism, right? But it's the kid's prism, not yours. His lens. Okay?
That's right. All right.
Does that help on the NIL deal?
Well, yes. And
you know what? Here's one more thing. As a practitioner in strength conditioning, it is more paramount than ever. And I did this when I was with the Jaguars. I didn't care if the dude was a free agent because March 17th, and I think the date fluctuates year to year. But on a certain date, if you're not a signed free agent with that club, you can no longer be in the building.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I said? I said, if you live here, we open. I don't care if you're signed with us or not. You don't got to go pay somebody somewhere. Use the organization. Use the club. You spilt it for them the year before. We open for you. And hopefully you get an opportunity somewhere else to continue to extend your career.
Right.
So I think that we can't go through this mindset of who's in the portal, who's thinking about it, what do I got to do? Yes, you can have side convos, but the training, and I know this is not happening for Mickey Murrah. I know it. I believe in that dude. I know that dude. Western PA, grimy, minor dude, right? West Lib, okay?
Yeah.
He doesn't act that way. But I will say this is for all the other strength coaches that are out there. You have to continue to train and invest and love on them until the day that they leave you. And when they do leave you, you still have that relationship because you're called coach.
Full circle. Yep, full circle on the coaching conversation.
Like a merry-go-round, right? Up and down and around.
And around.
Circular.
Feel it.
Yes.
Love it. This is why we couldn't go another couple weeks without talking to Schlegs. Had to get him back and combine that with the podcast daily for today, Thursday, and with the difference, as always. Now he's going to maybe he'll get some rest. I don't know. I don't think Schlegs ever really sleeps.
Listen,
and he's going to.
I haven't slept. I need to sleep. I've been attacking it. I've been attacking and dominating the difference. This is our best year ever. I actually put out a video before I flew out. I worked out because I had to get some restless energy out of me, and I just started striking. And I was like, I really don't post videos or talk about it. I should. I invented it. I know football, and I'm like, one of the benefits of the machine and why I made it is because like we play a violent game, and I happen to have been doing, or maybe it was the day before when I made that video. I don't even remember. But I was doing dynamic, like accommodating resistance chain incline, and then I was striking it off my knees, and I was just feeling it in my thumbs and in my wrist and in my forearms. I'm like, that's the one thing we don't really talk about is thousands of reps of striking violently prepare your thumbs and your wrists and your forearms to do what? Absorb and inflict violence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah. So I just made like a little video, at Difference USA. I think we're on Instagram and Twitter. I don't even know. I can't stand social media. I know you love it.
Don't start with
me. You love it. But that being said, go follow them. Check them out. I'm very blessed. This has been the best year ever. And it's funny. Like I was actually going back through my stuff. Now that Brady is at Wisconsin, I will now have all of the Big Ten because they were the only school in the Big Ten that didn't have striking machines. All right, so I'm not going to say that was the cause or effect of anything, but they will now. So that way I have the entire Big Ten. But I will say that everybody that's playing in the college football playoff right now this year, guess what? All got striking machines. Poof, David Copperfield.
Shout out to Brady Collins.
Yeah,
Brady Collins and Luke Fickle for getting it done up there and getting.
Yes, thank you.
But look out for the Badgers now because they finally have them.
They're gonna be. Hey, listen, man, strike them early and strike often. That's it, man. Just be violent dudes. Oh, and side nugget, I was actually doing a report, like, because I do all my own books, and I don't know, I just like seeing stuff. Like, I've been doing this for 6 years now. I've only sold to, I believe, like 6 to 7% of all of high schools in the nation. That's it. But I got 120 plus Division I colleges, so that's cool. But it's like, man, there's just so much more room to grow. That's right.
That's right. All gas, no brakes.
Gas station ready. Josh Bryant, let's go. Yeah. Anyways, I'm excited for this Peach Bowl.
All right. Nobody has a higher GSF factor than that man, Anthony Schlegel. He's going to get after it. We appreciate his time as always. I took up way more of it than I ever intended, or more than we have on any Sunday with Schlegs when we're actually breaking down games. So you can tell we had a lot of pent up stuff in those brains that we had to get out. And we'll have him back soon enough, maybe to talk more before Georgia. Maybe it'll just be after. Who knows? But we appreciate him as always. So for Schlegs, I am Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. We will see you next time.